The sky above the planet Virellia was calm, filled with glowing rings that shimmered like silver fire. The temples were quiet, the air heavy with prayers and incense. The alien priestess Liora stood on the balcony of the grand temple, her violet skin glowing softly under the light of the twin suns. For centuries, her order had preached peace, devotion, and purity. But that peace was about to end. High above the atmosphere, ships began to appear, dark, metallic, and alive with energy. They were not Virellian ships, and they carried no flags. The stars around them rippled like water as their engines roared to life. The humans had arrived. For decades, humans and Virellians had avoided each other. The humans were explorers, fighters, and builders. The Virellians were spiritual and ancient, choosing isolation over war. But now, human mining fleets had crossed into sacred space, drilling deep into planets believed to hold the veins of light crystals the Virellians used for their holy rituals. The High Council of Priests called it a sin, an insult to the gods. And so, for the first time in 1,000 years, they declared war. Liora watched the human fleet from the temple's crystal mirror. She felt no anger, only fear. Why must it come to this? She whispered. Her mentor, the elder priest Nerith, stepped beside her. Because humans only learn through fire, he said. And the gods demand balance. But Liora was different. She had studied human languages and stories. She had seen their art, their bravery, and their pain. Somewhere deep in her heart, she believed they were not all enemies. Down in the valleys, the first explosions began. Human dropships landed near the holy mountains, their engines burning the sacred soil. Soldiers marched with metal suits and plasma rifles, facing warriors who carried blades of living light. The war began not with words, but with silence, broken by fire. Captain Aiden Cross led the human ground forces. He was young but scarred by too many battles. His orders were clear: secure the crystals, avoid civilian areas, and finish quickly. But when he saw the floating temples above the battlefield, his steps slowed. The beauty of Virellia stunned him. It wasn't just another alien planet. It felt alive. "Sir," one of his soldiers called, "we're getting strange readings from the mountain. High energy levels." Aiden looked up. A shimmer of light rippled through the air, and from that light, figures began to appear. Alien warriors cloaked in gold armor surrounded them, blades humming softly. At their center stood Liora. Her eyes were calm, not filled with hate like the others. She looked at Aiden directly, her voice soft but powerful. "Why have you come here, human? This land is not yours." Aiden raised his weapon but didn't fire. "We came for the crystals. We didn't know they were sacred." "You knew," she said. "You just didn't care." The air tensed. One wrong move and the war would begin in full. The soldiers waited for orders, their fingers trembling near the triggers. Aiden took a slow breath. "If there's a way to stop this, tell me now. I don't want this war." Liora hesitated. The council had told her humans were greedy and soulless, but this one's eyes were different. He spoke not like a conqueror, but like a man carrying too much guilt. Before she could answer, the sky cracked open. Giant beams of energy rained down, hitting both sides. Neither the humans nor the Virellians had fired them. From above, massive warships appeared, black, silent, and covered in ancient runes. They weren't human. They weren't Virellian. Both armies looked up in shock. A blinding pulse followed, knocking everyone to the ground. When the dust cleared, hundreds were dead, both alien and human. The unknown ships vanished as quickly as they appeared, leaving destruction behind. Aiden stood, coughing through smoke, and saw Liora helping a wounded human soldier. For a moment, he didn't believe what he was seeing. An alien priestess healing one of his men. "You saved him," he said quietly. Liora didn't look up. No one deserves to die for the mistakes of others. Something shifted inside Aiden. He had been trained to see aliens as obstacles. But now he saw her as something else, someone who could end the cycle of hate. As the fires spread, Liora's communicator lit up with a message from the council. Destroy the humans. The gods demand their blood. She turned it off. Aiden walked closer. Whoever attacked us, it wasn't your people or mine. Someone wants this war. Liora's heart raced. The energy she felt during the blast, it was ancient, familiar. She looked up at the dark sky. They have returned, she whispered. Who? Aiden asked. The Forgotten Ones, she said softly. And if they are awake, then neither of our worlds will survive. The battlefield burned behind them as the two stood together, enemies only in name. The first war between human and alien had begun, but a far greater danger was rising from the shadows of space. Asterisk smoke drifted over the ruined battlefield, turning the bright skies of Virellia into a gray blur. The cries of the wounded echoed between shattered temples and fallen ships. Human soldiers and alien warriors lay scattered together, no longer enemies, just victims of something they didn't understand. Captain Aiden Cross moved slowly through the debris, his rifle hanging loose at his side. His armor was burned, his face cut, but his focus was on one thing: finding the alien priestess who had saved his man. The image of her healing the wounded haunted him. She was supposed to be his enemy, yet she had shown mercy. That single act changed something inside him. He found her near the base of a broken spire. Liora sat among the fallen, her robes torn and her glowing eyes dim with exhaustion. Around her, a faint aura of blue light pulsed from her hands as she healed both humans and Virellians alike. You should rest, Aiden said quietly. She didn't look up. If I rest, they die. You're healing my soldiers, he said, almost in disbelief. Why? Liora finally raised her eyes to him. Because the gods I serve value life. And because something worse is coming. Aiden crouched beside her. You said they've returned. Who are they? She stopped her healing and looked toward the distant mountains, where the sky still flickered with strange energy. The Forgotten Ones, they were our creators. Long before humans or Virellians built ships, they ruled the stars. We were their children. Until we rebelled. Aiden frowned. And now they're back? Yes, she whispered. And they don't care who wins this war. To them, both our races are mistakes that must be erased. A sudden explosion cut through the air, closer this time. Human reinforcements were moving in, and alien warriors were regrouping. The uneasy calm of the battlefield broke again. Aiden looked toward the chaos, then back at Liora. We need to leave. If your people see you with me, they'll kill you. They already will, she said softly. I turned off the council's command. I disobeyed the gods. For a moment, neither spoke. Then Aiden extended his hand. Come with me. We'll figure this out together. Liora hesitated. Her whole life, she had been told humans were impure, reckless, and dangerous. Touching one was considered sin. But as she looked at his bloodied hand, she felt no sin, only trust. Slowly, she took it. They ran across the ruins, dodging fire and falling debris, until they reached the remains of a human shuttle. Aiden activated the emergency beacon, and within minutes, a small dropship descended from the smoke. Inside, Aiden's second-in-command, Sergeant Hayes, stared in shock when he saw Liora enter. Sir, what the hell is that alien doing here? She's not a prisoner, Aiden said. She's coming with us. Hayes looked furious. You can't be serious. Her people just tried to kill us. And something tried to kill both of us, Aiden shot back. She might be the only one who knows what's happening. Liora stood quietly at the edge of the cabin, her eyes scanning the wounded soldiers. Some glared at her, others looked away. She could feel their fear. To them, she was the enemy. As the dropship rose into the dark clouds, the battlefield below disappeared into smoke. But far above, Hidden beyond the clouds, an enormous shadow drifted silently in orbit. The Forgotten One's vessel massive, ancient, and alive. Its surface pulsed like a heartbeat, and strange lights moved beneath its skin. Inside that ship, a voice echoed through the void. It spoke in no known language, yet every living creature felt its meaning in their bones. The children have forgotten. The stars will be cleansed. Back aboard the human command ship Horizon Edge. Chaos filled the bridge as they tried to understand the energy readings from orbit. "Sir, something's up there," a technician shouted. "It's not human tech. It's not Virellian either." Aiden stepped forward with Liora beside him. "It's them," she said. "The ones who made us." General Rourke, the human commander, eyed her suspiciously. "And how do you know that?" "Because their power runs through my kind," she replied. "I can feel it waking inside me." Aiden saw a flash of light under her skin, like glowing veins for just a second. The crew stepped back nervously. "Captain," the general said coldly, "you brought an alien priestess aboard my ship without clearance. This is a military vessel, not a peace meeting." "She saved our soldiers," Aiden replied. "And she's telling the truth. Whatever is up there, it's not something we can fight with guns." The general didn't respond. The ship trembled suddenly, alarms blaring again. On the screen, the shadow in orbit began to shift, slowly turning toward the planet. "They're moving," the officer said. "And they're charging some kind of weapon." Liora's eyes widened. "No, they're not attacking the planet. They're trying to awaken something buried beneath it." "What do you mean?" Aiden asked. She turned to him, her face pale. "Virellia is not just a world. It's a cradle. Beneath the surface sleeps the last creation of the Forgotten Ones." The ship shook harder, lights flickering. Outside, the planet's crust began to glow with golden cracks, as if something enormous was stirring below. Aiden gripped the console. "What's under there?" Liora whispered, her voice trembling. "A god that was never meant to wake." The ship trembled as golden light spread across the planet below. Every crack on Virellia's surface glowed brighter, like the veins of a sleeping giant. The bridge of the Horizon Edge filled with noise alarms, shouting, and fear. Captain Aiden Cross held onto the command rail. "What's happening to the planet?" Liora stood beside him, eyes wide, her voice shaking. "The god beneath is waking. The Forgotten Ones sealed it there ages ago when it disobeyed them. Now they are trying to free it." General Rourke turned toward her, angry and pale. "You're telling me there's a living thing under that planet?" "Not living as you understand it," she said. "It's pure energy. It feeds on life itself." Before anyone could answer, a surge of light flashed from the planet's surface. Every screen went white. For a second, the whole universe seemed silent. Then a deep pulse shook the ship so powerful that it felt like a heartbeat inside their bones. Shields failing. Someone shouted, "Energy spike off the charts." Aiden ordered, "Pull us higher into orbit." Engines roared, and the Horizon Edge climbed away from the burning world. Through the window, Aiden saw the impossible, a shape rising from the planet's crust. It wasn't metal or stone. It looked like a mountain made of light, shifting and alive. "That thing," whispered one of the crew. "Is that the god?" Liora nodded slowly. "His name was Vera. He was once the guardian of life. But when the Forgotten Ones turned to war, he refused to obey. They punished him by sleeping him beneath our home." The glowing structure moved like it was breathing. Every breath sent waves of energy across the atmosphere, knocking out ships on both sides. Human and Virellian fleets fell together, powerless against something beyond their understanding. Aiden turned to the general. "We have to evacuate. If that thing wakes completely, the planet will die." "Evacuate to where?" The general snapped. "The whole system's shaking." Liora stepped forward. "I can reach it." Everyone turned toward her. Aiden frowned. What do you mean, reach it? My order was created by the gods to speak their language, she said. The energy inside me, it's connected to Vera. I might calm him, or at least slow his awakening. The general shook his head. You're out of your mind. You're not leaving this ship. Aiden looked at her face and saw something he hadn't before: fear, but also faith. He placed his hand on the general's shoulder. Sir, if she's right, she might save all of us. The general hesitated, then turned away. If this goes wrong, Captain, it's on you. Aiden nodded. Understood. Within minutes, a shuttle was prepared. Liora stood inside it, her robes torn and glowing softly under the emergency lights. Aiden joined her, fastening his harness. You don't have to come, she said quietly. Yes, I do, he replied. Someone has to bring you back. The shuttle broke free from the carrier and descended into the glowing storm. Thunder rolled across space as fragments of debris drifted past. The ground below was no longer solid. Streams of golden light cut through it like rivers dot when they landed. The air shimmered. The ground hummed beneath their boots, warm and alive. In the distance, the enormous figure of Vera continued to rise, its shape half-formed, its face hidden in light. Aiden looked up, stunned. That's not a machine. No, Liora said. It's older than any world. She stepped forward, her hands glowing. The light around her body brightened, matching the pulse of the creature. Each step she took made the ground respond as if it recognized her. What are you doing? Aiden called. Speaking, she said. In the old way. She closed her eyes and began to chant in a language he didn't know. The sound was soft at first, then grew deeper, vibrating through the air. The light in the sky flickered, and for a moment, Vera stopped moving. It worked. At least for a second. Then a deep voice filled the air. It wasn't sound, it was thought. It spoke in every mind nearby. The children who forgot now begged for mercy. Liora fell to her knees, clutching her head. Aiden ran to her. What's it saying? He knows we killed his kind, she whispered. He knows humans destroyed the veins of light. The ground cracked open behind them, throwing both into the air. Aiden grabbed her hand as they slid across the dust. Explosions tore through the valley as energy bolts hit from orbit, the human fleet firing again. They're shooting at Vera. Aiden shouted. They'll make it worse. Liora gasped. You must stop them. He looked at her, her glowing eyes, the fear in her voice, and nodded. He pressed his comlink. Horizon Edge, this is Captain Cross. Cease fire immediately. You're making it stronger. Static answered. The general's voice came back through the noise. We don't have a choice, Captain. That thing's tearing the planet apart. Aiden looked back at Vera. The creature's body flared brighter with every hit, absorbing the blasts like fuel. Liora grabbed Aiden's arm. If he reaches full strength, he'll destroy everything, the gods, the stars, all of us. Then what can we do? He asked. She took a shaky breath. We need to go inside him. That's where his heart, the core, still sleeps. If we reach it, maybe we can seal him again. Inside that? He said, staring at the mountain of light. She nodded. It's the only way. Aiden tightened his gloves and looked at her with a faint smile. Then lead the way, Priestess. Liora looked at him for a long moment. You're not afraid? I'm terrified, he said. But I'd rather die trying than run from a god. Together they turned toward the shining giant, walking into the storm of fire and light as the world began to break apart beneath their feet. The light around them grew thicker as Aiden and Liora stepped closer to the glowing mountain. Every step felt heavier, as if the air itself tried to push them back. The ground was no longer solid rock, but soft, humming energy that pulsed with a heartbeat. The mountain wasn't just alive, it was awake. A tunnel opened before them, made of liquid light. Aiden looked at it, and then at Liora. That's the way in? She nodded. Vera is calling us. He knows we're here. The two walked inside. The walls moved like veins, glowing in soft waves of gold and blue. The sound of deep breathing echoed through the passage, slow and powerful. It didn't sound like a machine. It sounded like something ancient remembering how to live again. As they moved deeper, the light changed to a soft red. Liora's steps slowed. Her mind filled with whispers, not in her ears but inside her thoughts. She could hear voices of her ancestors, priests who served the gods long ago. They begged her to turn back. Aiden noticed her shaking. "You okay?" "They're talking to me," she said softly. "They don't want me to finish this." He placed a hand on her shoulder. "Then don't listen to them. Listen to yourself." She took a slow breath and nodded. Together they continued until they reached a wide chamber that opened like the heart of a star. In the center floated a sphere of light, large as a building. Streams of energy flowed around it, forming patterns like runes. Liora whispered, "That's his core." Before they could move closer, a flash of light blinded them both. When their vision cleared, the world around them changed. They were no longer in the glowing chamber. They stood in a city of glass towers under a white sky, a memory of a time long gone. Figures of energy walked around them, tall, radiant beings. The forgotten ones. They spoke in a language that was music and thunder together. Liora gasped. "We're inside his memory. He's showing us the past." They saw humans and Virellians together, standing before the gods like children before their parents. One of the gods raised its hand, creating two orbs, one blue, one silver. "You will guard life," it said. "You will seek knowledge." Then the scene changed. The gods argued among themselves. Fire filled the sky. The humans built ships. The Virellians built temples. Then came war, first between the gods, then between their children. Aiden felt his heart pound. "We didn't start this," he said. "They did." Liora looked at him. Maybe both our kinds were made for their war. The vision faded. They were back in the glowing chamber, the core pulsing brighter now. The voice of Vera filled their minds deep, echoing and full of sorrow. "My children forgot their purpose. You fight because you were made to fight. I wanted peace. Now I must end what they began." A wave of energy threw them back. Aiden hit the wall, pain shooting through his body. Sparks danced across his armor. "Liora!" he shouted. She tried to stand, her hands glowing, but the energy around her flared violently. "He's feeding on the planet," she cried. "If we don't stop him, Virellia will break apart." Aiden forced himself up. "Tell me what to do." She looked at the core. "We have to close it. I can link my energy to his, but it will take both of us. The human body is strong enough to ground it. So you need me to hold it steady," he said. She nodded. "But once we start, we can't stop." He gave a small grin. "Story of my life." Together they stepped toward the sphere. Light surrounded them, and pain hit instantly like fire running through every nerve. The core fought back, releasing storms of energy. Liora screamed but didn't let go. Aiden held her hands, anchoring her as the light grew blinding. Images flashed before their eye stars forming. Worlds dying, oceans of color spinning through space. The voice of Vera echoed again. "Why stop what was meant to end?" Liora shouted back, her voice shaking. "Because we can choose. We're not just creations, we're alive." The sphere pulsed violently. Aiden felt his armor melt and his vision blur. "Liora!" he gasped. She reached out, pressing her glowing hand against his chest. Her power surged through him, mixing with his human strength. Together, their energy formed a single beam that cut through the storm and into the core. The chamber filled with white light. The walls trembled. Vera roared, not in anger, but in pain and sadness. The light began to fade, dimming like a sunset. When it was over, silence returned. The air felt calm again. The golden glow around them softened to a gentle blue. Aiden opened his eyes slowly. Liora lay beside him, weak but alive. He touched her hand. "Did we do it?" She nodded faintly. "He's sleeping again. But he heard us. He knows now that his children still have hope." Aiden looked around. The walls were turning to crystal, still pulsing softly but stable. For the first time, the planet was quiet. "Then it's over?" he asked. Liora gave a small smile. "For now." They stood together, surrounded by the fading light. Above them, the planet's sky cleared, revealing stars again. For a brief moment, it looked peaceful, until a shadow passed across the light. A new fleet appeared in orbit, their ships blacker than space itself. They weren't human. They weren't Virellian. Liora's smile faded. "The other gods. They're coming." Aiden tightened his grip on his rifle, even though he knew it would be useless against what was coming. "Then I guess we're not done yet." Dark shapes moved through orbit like shadows eating the stars. From the surface of Virellia, the sky dimmed again. The new fleet had arrived, enormous ships made of black crystal, their edges glowing faint red. Every movement felt slow and deliberate, like a warning from gods who had no mercy left. Aiden stood outside the cracked entrance of Vera's chamber, watching the ships descend. The wind carried ash and static. Beside him, Liora leaned weakly on her staff, her violet skin pale and faintly glowing. The light from the sleeping god behind them pulsed softly, like a giant's heartbeat. "They're not just ships," she said quietly. "They're vessels of the higher gods. The ones who punished Vera. They've come to finish what he started." Aiden's jaw tightened. "And that means us." He tapped his communicator. "This is Captain Cross. We need all surviving ships in orbit. Evacuate civilians. Prioritize medical and refugee craft." Static filled the line, then General Rourke's rough voice answered. "Captain, we're barely holding the atmosphere together. We've lost half the fleet." "What's happening down there?" "Something bigger than a war," Aiden said. "If those ships land, the whole planet will burn." Rourke paused. "Then you'd better find a miracle, son." The signal cut. Liora looked toward the horizon, where the temples burned like dying stars. "My people will fight them. They will call it holy duty. They will die thinking they serve the gods." Aiden looked at her. "Then maybe it's time someone told them the truth." She turned to him, surprised. "They will never believe a human. Then they'll believe you." Hours later, they climbed aboard a damaged human transport and flew toward the Virellian capital, the floating temple city of Arion. Smoke rose from its golden spires, and beams of enemy light struck the shields protecting it. The streets below were full of chaos, soldiers, refugees, and priests praying for salvation that wouldn't come. The ship landed near the main square. When Liora stepped out, the crowd froze. Some bowed. Others stared in disbelief. The High Council stood at the temple stairs, their faces cold. Elder Nareth, her former mentor, stepped forward. "Liora Valen," he said, his voice echoing. "You defied the gods. You fought beside a human. You brought shame to our order." She raised her head. "I brought truth. The gods you worship are not coming to save you. They are coming to erase us." The crowd murmured, frightened. Nareth shook his head. "Blasphemy." She pointed to the sky. "Look, does that look like mercy?" At that moment, a beam of red light struck the edge of the city. The ground shook. Cries filled the air. Liora stepped forward. They called Vera a traitor because he loved life. He refused to kill his children. He was punished for compassion. Is that what holiness means? The priests hesitated. Even Nareth looked uncertain. Aiden watched her, amazed. She stood in front of thousands, defying her gods with nothing but faith in her own voice. Another explosion shook the city. Aiden turned toward the temple gates where human soldiers were arriving, weapons ready but uncertain whom to fight. He ran to them. "Hold the perimeter. Protect the civilians no matter what species." One soldier hesitated. "Sir, are we fighting with them or against them?" Aiden looked at Liora standing on the steps, fire reflecting in her eyes. "With her," he said. "Always with her." The battle began again. Enemy beams rained from orbit, cutting through the city's shields. Human and Virellian soldiers fought side by side for the first time, one defending the other, exchanging weapons, shouting orders across languages. Liora climbed the temple tower, raising her staff high. Energy flowed through her arms. The symbol of Vera glowed on her chest. "Hear me, old gods," she cried. "If destruction is your justice, then I reject your heaven." Lightning burst from the clouds. A single beam of light from above struck her staff, sending shockwaves across the sky. The Black Fleet slowed, reacting to her call. Aiden saw her glowing brighter and shouted into his come. "All ships, focus fire on the central command vessel. Give her cover." Dozens of human and Virellian guns turned upward, firing together. For the first time, their weapons burned with the same light, blue and gold merging in the clouds. The lead enemy ship cracked open, releasing a scream that was more like thunder than sound. But one blast struck the temple, hurling Liora backward. She fell from the tower, but Aiden sprinted across the plaza and caught her before she hit the ground. She gasped for air, her voice weak. "It's not enough. They won't stop unless they see that life still stands together." He held her close. "Then we show them." Aiden grabbed her fallen staff and planted it into the ground beside them. Its crystal top still glowed. "You said humans were made to fight and Virellians were made to pray. Maybe together we can live." Liora's eyes filled with tears. "If it's with you, then it's not a sin." Above them, the clouds split again. The black ships paused, scanning the energy rising from the city. For the first time, they did not fire. The alliance below, human and alien, burned like a beacon. Soldiers helped each other, medics from both sides worked together. Voices shouted in unity. The gods in orbit began to withdraw slowly, as if uncertain. The light in the sky dimmed, and silence spread across the battlefield. Liora's strength faded, and she leaned against Aiden. "He'll come again," she whispered. "They always do." He looked at the quiet stars above. "Then we'll be ready." As the last enemy ship vanished into the dark, dawn broke over Virellia. The light was soft, real, and warm, not from a god, but from a new beginning. The sunrise over Virellia was strange that morning. The air still smelled of smoke and metal, but for the first time in centuries, the sky was clear. The war was over, at least for now. The black ships had disappeared into the void, leaving behind silence and a fragile peace between two species that had never trusted each other. Aiden stood on the steps of the ruined temple, his armor burned and cracked. Around him, human and Virellian soldiers worked side by side, helping the wounded, clearing the debris. It almost looked like a new beginning. But deep inside, he knew peace never came without a price. Liora sat near the base of the temple, her staff broken beside her. The glow from her skin had faded. She looked weaker each hour. When Aiden approached, she smiled softly. "The gods are gone," she said. "But their shadows remain." He knelt beside her. "You saved us, Liora. You brought two worlds together. That's more than any priest or general has ever done." Her eyes lowered. "And yet, my people call me a heretic. The High Council has summoned me for judgment." Aiden frowned. "Judgment? After all you did?" "They believe I broke divine law," she said. "By joining with you, by calling the gods false, by using Forbidden's power. He clenched his fists. Then I'll stand with you. If they want to judge you, they'll have to judge me too. Liora shook her head. They will see you as a symbol, Aiden, a threat, not a savior. If you stand beside me, the peace we fought for will die before it begins. Aiden stared at her, unable to speak. He had faced monsters, machines, and gods, but the thought of losing her was the only thing that truly frightened him. That night, the Temple of Judgment burned with golden light. The remaining council members stood in a circle, wearing ceremonial armor and veils that hid their faces. Liora stood in the center, dressed in simple white robes. Her wrists were bound by glowing bands, not chains of metal, but of energy. Aiden watched from the shadows, hidden behind a broken pillar. Human officers had been ordered to stay away, but he couldn't. Elder Nerith stepped forward, his voice echoing. Liora Valen, once priestess of Virellia, you are accused of breaking sacred law, consorting with an alien, and awakening a god without permission. Do you deny these charges? Liora raised her head. No, I did those things. And I would do them again. The crowd gasped. You speak as if sin were virtue, Nerith said coldly. Leora's voice was calm. If saving lives is a sin, then I am guilty. If love between different worlds is forbidden, then perhaps the gods are the ones who sinned first. Her words rippled through the chamber. The younger priests looked uncertain, glancing at one another. Nerith slammed his staff to the ground. Enough, you defied the will of creation itself. You are no longer Virellian. You are nothing. Aiden stepped from the shadows before he could stop himself. Then she's not nothing to me. The entire hall turned. Soldiers raised weapons. Leora's eyes widened. Aiden, no. He walked forward slowly, his voice steady. You want to call her a heretic? Fine, but she's the reason your world still exists. While you prayed for deliverance, she became it. You don't deserve her faith. Nerith's face twisted. Human arrogance. You think your words can save her? I'm not here to save her, Aiden said. I'm here to stand beside her. For a moment, silence filled the hall. Then, from somewhere in the crowd, a young Virellian soldier dropped his weapon and bowed. Another followed. Soon, dozens knelt, both human and alien. Nerith looked around, furious. You defy the gods. Leora's voice cut through his rage. No, we finally understand them. A beam of light broke through the temple roof, shining directly onto her. The glowing bands around her wrists dissolved. The ancient energy that once belonged to the gods responded to her heartbeat. Calm, steady, alive, the light spread across the hall, touching everyone. It didn't burn. It felt warm, gentle, and full of peace. Nerith fell to his knees, trembling. What are you? He whispered. Liora looked at Aiden, something new. The energy faded slowly. The hall was quiet again. Liora turned to the council. Virellia doesn't need gods anymore. It needs hope. And hope begins when we stop being afraid of what we don't understand. The council said nothing. No one dared to speak against her. Days later, the alliance became official. Human and Virellian leaders signed the first treaty between their species. The temple where they signed it stood rebuilt, not as a place of worship, but as a place of unity. Aiden stood on the balcony, looking out at the city rebuilt from ashes. Liora walked beside him, her robe shimmering softly in the sunset light. So, he said with a small smile, what do you call yourself now? Priestess? Prophet? She smiled back. Just Liora. He nodded. And what about me? She looked into his eyes. The human who taught me that sin is just another word for fear. They stood there in silence, watching the stars appear one by one. Somewhere far above, unseen by either of them, a faint light shimmered, the last trace of Vera, still watching, still waiting. Aiden took her hand. Do you think they'll come back? The gods? Liora's voice was soft. Maybe, but next time they won't find servants. They'll find equals. He smiled faintly. Then let them come. As the twin moons rose over Virellia, the human warrior and the alien priestess stood together, no longer divided by species or faith, but united by something stronger. For the first time in both their worlds, the war was truly over, and in the quiet light of a new dawn, peace didn't feel like a gift from heaven. It felt like something they had earned.